how stress and overwhelm manifests in the sensitive and how to overcome it with more than just meditation. So enhancing your intuition, for instance, has more implications than you imagine. Many more implications than you possibly can imagine for you as a sensitive. It's not just about seeing things out of the corner of your eye, and it's not just things about premonitions or dreams that manifest, all that kind of stuff. It's not just about that. Far from it. Okay, so if you think your life as a sensitive means that, it goes a lot deeper than that. It goes a lot beyond knowing what's coming next as well. If you see your life as a sensitive, as far as that's concerned, it goes a lot deeper than that. And it goes a lot deeper than experiencing the feelings of other people. Okay, it's a way of life. So you as a sensitive, whether you realise it yet or whether you like it or not, it's a way of life and it's not going to leave you. Okay, it's something that's going to build over a period of time. So less and less, for instance, of us in our lives and what it's all about, less of our world is about relying on left brain linear thinking. So I'm sure you understand what I'm saying as far as left brain linear thinking is concerned. That's a way of thinking that's very structured, it's very systems orientated. That used to work very well for people. Okay, it did used to work very well up until very recent times. Has that significantly changed? How we put things together. A linear process, one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, is actually a very slow process. Okay, it takes time, and now that the world has speeded up quite significantly, that way of doing things is no longer okay. Okay, the world has become more creative, it's become more fluid and responsive to change. Okay, so humanity was, for instance, reliant on systematic approaches. That's changed. Okay, that's changed a lot. Creative right brain thinking has become the way forward. Now, you as a sensitive, that's what you are. Whether you think, oh, okay, no, I think I'm very systematic and this is how I operate and all this kind of thing. No, you're not. You will be, for you to be a sensitive, you will be heavily influenced by the right brain. Okay? It's making the difference between who gets ahead and who doesn't. I'm afraid that's how things have adjusted and changed. So linear, very structured left brain thinking, all that kind of stuff, has now moved into a different format, which is right brain dominant features, which is much more creative flow. It also means that things move a lot faster because it's opening up. So for instance, the intuitive side, all of those elements of your abilities are very much right brain influenced. Now that is changing things, and it is moving people very much in the direction of success, and it is marking the difference between those who get ahead and those who don't, because the linear thinking has now become too long and drawn out for the fast-paced reality of how things are now and how they will continue to move forward. So it's very much influenced by the sensitive's thinking. Okay, so finally the sensitive, the right brain dominant sensitive, have their say. Okay, finally it has come about, because for many years we've all experienced as sensitives mocking, humiliation, we've experienced being misunderstood, all of these things which are absolutely something that's probably happened in your life at some stage or another. People have either mocked your intuitive senses or how you do things or your sensitivity. A lot of sensitives have gone through stages in life of humiliation, in terms of that they've been very wounded by things that maybe other people can brush off at times. And you also will find that you've been quite strongly misunderstood, because you are very sensitive to things, so therefore your way of experiencing things in the world is a lot deeper than most of the people that you know. And you've forever been told that you're too sensitive. So that will have manifest at some point in your life. For a lot of sensitives, it's early in their lives where people perhaps have made or thought that they are jokes, and actually they are things that have hurt quite strongly, and you've been told, oh no, you're being too sensitive over it. That's not what you have been, it's just the way of you, okay? It's the way you are as a sensitive. So today, the sensitive is at the forefront of change, okay? You are at the forefront of change, how things are happening and things are changing. Sensitives are the minority pushing ahead the majority, okay? So you are a minority or a small group pushing ahead the majority of people in life, whether you realise it or not. And if you think to yourself, well, I don't really do that much, I'm not out there, I don't do that, my work in life doesn't involve that, I'm this or that, or I don't really get myself involved with too many things, you're having an influence even in your immediate vicinity, okay? That amount of change that is occurring for you, because sensitives pick up things on things before everybody else does, okay? It's not just intuition, you pick up on the flow of things and the direction and way that things are going before everybody else does. They're a bit slower to pick it up, okay? You're a lot faster in it because you're sensitive enough to pick the vibrations of it up before it becomes something that happens, okay? It's the feel, it's what's in the air, all of that kind of stuff. You pick it up before everybody else, okay? So you are a minority pushing the majority forward. Sensitives have actually become the backbone of society in terms of you're quietly doing things that help to change things and help to move things forward. Sensitives aren't people who sort of shout and scream about things. They do things in a very subtle but very subtle and a very emotional way, but very powerful way in that it can be something that you perceive as very small, but actually it has an enormous ripple effect, okay? So we're important, sensitives are important, and for you obviously to be here listening to me babbling on, you are a sensitive, okay? You are a sensitive, and so these things are important. So in getting to the levels of to do with your stress and how you begin to manage that, some of these things that you need to realise about yourself are extremely important, okay? So your empathetic nature and your highly sensitive nature is the root of change. So whether you like it or not, whether you realise it or not, at this particular junction in your life, your highly sensitive nature and your empathetic nature is the root of the change that's happening from now onwards, absolutely. And it's been the build up over quite a few years, and now we're in the full flow of it, and you should be beginning to be able to feel that, to feel those adjustments and feel those changes. But the highly sensitive nature comes with its own challenges, okay? It does come with its own challenges, and I'm sure you probably realise that it comes with its own challenges. Stress and overwhelm are a major factor for the sensitive, okay? So what we're going to be having a look at is how that becomes something that you adjust without just purely a need for meditation or calming down, all this kind of stuff. For a sensitive, it's not as easy as that, okay? You do have to do things slightly differently in order to move things forward, which is something that's extremely important to you and always will be. Sensitives always look for change, movement, things that are progressive, and it's not going to go away. So that, big stack of books that you've had by the side of your bed for however long, and that you'd maybe change a couple of them here and there, isn't going to get any smaller, because there will always be something else that you want to learn. Okay, there will always be that, or something else that you always want to absorb, because that's the expansive nature of a sensitive. Okay, but saying that, the sensitive does actually have a very robust constitution. Okay, you have a very robust constitution, something that you aren't probably fully aware of as yet, okay? They use their fears to help improve and guide others, okay? So sensitives use what they're frightened of in order to help improve themselves and help other people move forward, mainly through their own lessons. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you have to go and tell the world about it. It happens even in your immediate space, even in ways that you don't even realise how your own adjustments have a huge impact on other people. You know that through the fact that other people ask you your opinion, are very keen to know what you think, are very keen to tell you their life story, even if you've never really met them before. All of that kind of stuff is very indicative of the sensitive, okay? And that's how you learn through yourself in terms of then helping other people. Sensitive often experiences in their lifetime of huge areas, different areas of life in terms of some of the things that are important to you, but also some of the things that maybe aren't so important to other people. So primarily what sensitives experience is the feeling of overwhelm, as you know, from the feelings and emotions of other people. Okay, so it's not necessarily feelings and emotions, your own feelings and emotions, that give you a sense of overwhelm. It's those of other people, and obviously this amounts to a huge amount of stress on your system. You also have a knowing before people have shared. Okay, so before people have actually given you any information on things, you have a knowing around them. Okay, you have a knowing, and sometimes that knowing can be desperately uncomfortable and also will add to some aspects of the stress factors. You will also experience the withdrawal or the perceived shyness. So other people you either want to withdraw, okay, so in your lifetime you always feel, you like to withdraw, you like your own company, you like to remove yourself here and there, or you have a perceived shyness. So other people you either see yourself as shy or other people will see you as shy. It takes a little bit of time for you to get to know and trust people, and once you do know and trust people, once you really do warm to them, you are a great friend for life. You're not a transient person. Sensitives are not transient people. Okay, they look for something that's got a bit of depth, got a bit of meaning, and that's who you are, and that's not going to change. Okay, if you think you should be able to do a little bit more of the superficial thing, don't ever try and change yourself on that, because you're never going to manage it, because you can't be superficial as a sensitive. It doesn't quite work for you. Okay, so you also have a great or an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and that overdeveloped sense of responsibility will be towards mostly other people. Okay, which is, sometimes that sense, the responsibility isn't really they're not really things that you should have to take on, but you feel that you do, or you can't help yourself. It's just the way that you are. That is a balance of a sensitive. Sensitives also have a mountain of either physical or emotional challenges through their life. Okay, so you will have found that at some stage or another you've either had physical illness, and they're quite often things like chronic fatigue, things that affect the immune system, all that kind of stuff, or you've been on the experiencing end of huge emotional adjustments, which can either have come from early life, or they can have come from various different experiences during your lifetime. So relationship issues are quite often something that comes up for the sensitive, not because you're difficult to live with or anything, it's because you go through a lot of change, and it's not always possible for others to keep up with you, especially if they're very linear in their approach. Okay, because they won't understand how you do things, because you do things in much bigger circles in life. Okay, much bigger circles than everybody else. So you're ahead all the time, and it sometimes takes people a while to catch up. So therefore it can show in relationships, whether that's romantic relationships or family dynamics, all that kind of stuff. It takes them a while to catch up, because they're still in their ways and means of doing things, and you've kind of pulled from different directions and already moved ahead. So it can be, a sticky time where a sensitive will come up against somebody else, either, as I say, in romantic relationships or in family dynamics and things like that. And one thing that you will absolutely do your utmost to do is to avoid confrontation. So therefore it can leave a hole of how do I then move forward. It creates stress in the system. I'm not sure whether I'm in a relationship, not in a relationship, how do I get into a relationship, I'm not sure if I can cope with a relationship. All those kind of things do come up quite often for the sensitive. Okay, so for instance, in my own experience, I've had many a health situation, okay, to overcome in life, not because not for any other reason really, I think, than to understand other people's perspectives, what it feels like from other people's perspectives. So, you know, through my life I've had health issues which have always been related to the sensitive, okay, and as many of you know, I've had my fair few experiences of life-threatening situations which you think, crikey, how can someone manifest quite so many of those in one lifetime? And I have managed it a fair few times, but I think on each experience it's always been about learning how to understand from other people's worlds. Okay, so when I see someone else going through something that's similar, I can help steer them through it because I've done it. I've been there, I've survived that, so to speak. So therefore I'm someone they can understand because I know what it feels like for them. And I think that that happens a lot for sensitives. Okay, you will go through quite a few challenging circumstances in life because you've got then the experiences to help guide others through, and whether you like it or not, that's part of your life purpose, your life progression. And if you think, well, I don't really do that much in my life, believe me, you do, and you will do it more than you actually realise. You will help more people than you actually think that you participate in. And for you, it may even be a simple passing comment, or it may be something that you think is obvious, but to someone else, it means an awful lot. Okay, so never underestimate the power of your own abilities, your own intuitive abilities, but your own healing abilities as well, not only for yourself, but your contribution towards other people. So why does a sensitive go through all these experiences? Well, it gives them, as I say, a greater understanding of people. Without experience, how do we create depth in life? How do we possibly understand how does our life have any depth if we haven't had experiences? You can't guess what an experience is. You have to have some element of depth, and to be honest, sensitives love depth. Okay, you will find that you absolutely love depth to things. You're absolutely rubbish at small talk. You're rubbish at surface things, but you love anything that has depth to it. That's why when a sensitive meets another sensitive, they've got plenty to talk about, plenty to glean from each other, plenty to chat about for hours on end, when in fact in everybody else they find conversation really quite difficult, because one sensitive talking to another sensitive means fantastic amounts of depth without having to fear upsetting anybody, or it's the norm. They love depth. You will love depth, which is why when you come across another sensitive, it's a powerful union in terms of people developing friendships. Over the years, as you well know, I've taught many classes, and I see it so many times in every situation, is that when a sensitive meets another sensitive, you see friendships develop, and those friendships are lifetime friendships that form very quickly and very strong bonds. And the reason is because you've got two sensitives together, or three sensitives together, or four sensitives together with depth. Okay, and sensitives love depth. So you also find that you figure solutions based on experience. Okay, that's how you operate. Sensitives figure out how to do something, how to solve something, and bearing in mind your life as a sensitive is about you figuring and solving, absolutely, whether it's to do with your own life or helping as far as other people's lives are concerned, you figure out solutions, and you do so through your experiences. Once a sensitive has figured out how to solve something, what the solution is, it's their motivation in life to then go and guide others out of their personal, you call it cave, okay? It's how they gain happiness in life. For instance, a sensitive's real motivation, real strength in life, what will really make them feel happy is learning from their own experiences and then helping to guide other people through their experiences out of their own personal caves, so to speak. It doesn't mean that they have to all become, as a sensitive you have to go and automatically become a therapist or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you come across somebody who is asking for assistance or help around something, you can't help yourself but to offer solutions which always seem to be the right solutions, okay? But only when they ask for them, not following that compulsion to give them anyway. That's a big difference, and that will cause an enormous amount of stress in your life if you offer a solution ahead of the time when someone is ready to take it, because it plays upon your ultimate fear, which is confrontation. So even if the person hasn't said anything, you're hitting in to their resistance within their energy field, and that becomes extremely uncomfortable for the sensitive. Obviously I'm going to show you ways and means of how you overcome that, so you're not feeling under pressure from everybody else's senses all the time. So stress and the sensitive, okay, so how does it all happen? How do you solve it? What should you do with it? Okay, so the sensitives are highly intuitive, okay, empathetic and attracted to healing. So you know that is you as an individual. You've either been, first of all, highly intuitive and attracted towards that. You've known since day one, you've always been empathetic, you've always been the person who's understood the misunderstood. You've always been the person who's assisted or been of help. You've always been that person who waits back just to make sure that that person's okay before moving on. You've always been that person probably since you can remember. And if that has ever been tried to be drawn out of you, you will always find that eventually you will go back to that, because that's who you are. You can't help yourself. And attracted to healing, all sensitives at some stage or another are attracted to healing. Some are attracted to it first, and some are attracted to the intuitive side first, dependent on who you are as an individual. If you are a sensitive who's been very attracted to the healing side of things first, that will be because an aspect of you has been looking for healing, healing your own things around elements of nurturing, taking care of, all that kind of stuff, and that's why you've been interested perhaps in healing first and then your intuition second. If you've been interested in your intuitive side first and then healing second, it works in a slightly different way. It's not so much the nurturing energy that you require, it's more to do with the curiosity and the opening of the upper senses, whereas with healing, it's very much around this part of the body, so the lower aspects from the solar plexus and the heart centre. If you've been around intuition first, it's always been about this aspect of the upper body aspect of your energy system that's trying to open up. Okay, so it works in two different directions, dependent on which is the weaker sense first. Okay, but generally, a lot of sensitives, most sensitives are feelers first. Okay, so it's the feeling senses, it's through the solar plexus, it's gathering the feeling of nurturing and all that kind of thing, because sensitives feel rejection extremely strongly. Anything that's a sort of a perception of rejection, and it can be a real or imagined rejection. It doesn't actually have to be something that's so, because you're so sensitive, you'll pick up on the subtleties of something much more than the average person would. Okay, so that's why you feel even the slightest little edge of rejection very sharply. Okay, very sharply. But these are all aspects that can be toned down so it becomes a lot more comfortable. Okay. They know exactly, so the sensitive knows exactly what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. You know what it's like, and you know because you've been in them. Okay, you've been in other people's shoes, so you know exactly what it feels like, which is why that empathetic nature is so strong. You felt every pain, every tear, every panic, and you felt confrontation. Okay, every aspect of that within someone else's world. This creates an enormous amount of stress, okay, in your own system. It creates an enormous amount of stress. Can you imagine how much you've accumulated through the years of other people's things having built up in your own system? And this is partially comes from your overdeveloped sense of responsibility. So you've thought, oh, in pain, they've got pain. Oh, I don't like the confrontation aspect, so if I just take it off them, it all calms down. It's not something that you do in your words, it's something that you do in terms of the exchange of energy. So that's why, over a period of time, a sensitive will go into overwhelm. Okay, it will show in the sensitive through a desire to withdraw, physical illness, such as things like chronic fatigue and immune-related issues. The amount of sensitives that I come across always around things to do with chronic fatigue, aches and pains, things that you can't quite put your finger on, and also very much immune related things. Is enormous the amount of sensitives that have that. It's stress that's built up over a long period of time, and normally it is in response to other people's stress that you have absorbed for them almost, and dealt with for them over a number of years. So it can obviously be someone who's close to you, where that can build up and build up and build up. In the sensitive, it also the stress creates a situation where you have sugar cravings. So if you find that you're very much drawn to sugar and sweet, well, obviously sweet things, but anything that converts to sugar, so either literally refined sugars or carbohydrates, all of that kind of, we need a lot of them, that kind of thing. You think, oh, I've got to have things that are heavy, that are a bit stodgy, like a good old amount of potato or pasta or rice, that kind of stuff with your meals, or that sort of stuff is very much, that's a sugar craving, even though it's not literally refined sugar, but that's what it is. And stress in a sensitive will create a desire for those foods, simply because what it does is it then helps to stabilize your energy. It helps you to feel more here, because certainly what happens for the sensitive is as soon as they go into stress, part of their energy system sort of disappears out of the self. So in order for you to kind of feel comfortable remaining present, often you will find that you've got a strong attraction to sugar. Now that will be because, again, going into the strongest fear for the sensitive, which is confrontation. So it's going into all of that, okay? And so what you're doing is trying to avoid it. So you're trying to bring yourself back in, bring yourself back down. So sugar does that, grounds you. So you think, or sugar is heavy stuff, grounds you, and so you think, okay, well, if I had that, then I'm not going to pop out, or I'm not going to be drastically affected by confrontation, which, as I say, is the sensitive's biggest fear. You also have abandonment issues, which will come up under stress. So it will be anything to do with a sense of abandonment or feelings around that, which can come from early life, or it can come from relationship issues and stuff like that. Irritation that happens as a result of stress around the sensitive, and then obviously you get the things which are more known to you, like the sensitivity to noise. Okay, that happens when the system starts to go into overwhelm over quite a strong period of time, when it's become overstressed. Okay, so Sensitives are especially good at taking on other people's responsibilities and emotions, and you know that you are. This is because they'll do anything to avoid confrontation and absorption. So you will do whatever you possibly can to avoid a form of confrontation or to absorb. It doesn't mean you think, oh, actually, when I don't like something, I'm really hot on complaining and things like that. That's not the form of confrontation I mean. What I mean is that if you can feel a strong sense of an emotional confrontation, it doesn't have to be in people's words. What it is, it's in their energy. Okay, you will find yourself trying to escape it, withdraw from it, because it actually physically hurts you. Okay, it does actually. People don't realise this. Generally for the sensitive, but things that are invasive, whether in terms of emotional or physical, in anything in life, are deeply painful for the sensitive. It grinds something very deep because your nervous system is very on fire anyway, and so these things leave a residue for a long period of time. So things in your life you may have found that you think, well, that happened a long time ago, why can't I let it go, why can't I let it go? It will be because there was an element of confrontation in it. Everything else you can handle. Okay, you can handle your fears, you can handle all that kind of stuff, but anything that's got an element of confrontation, it takes a while for the sensitive to heal because it goes so deep. It's not in the head, it goes deep into your very core. Okay, so all that responsibility, all that absorbed responsibility from confrontation and everybody else's stuff stays with you, so stays with the sensitive. It flows deep, okay, into your subconscious. Whether you like it, whether you realise it, that's where it goes. It flows deep in there, causing an awful lot of stress in the system. It creates further pockets of experience that you weren't necessarily supposed to have. Okay, so you think, oh, well, why am I having that experience? What have I done to deserve that? It doesn't mean to say that you were supposed to have that experience. It may well be that you've absorbed that element of confrontation from another person. Okay, this is why the sensitive often has an especially challenging life. Okay, because you are at times not just learning from your own, but you're absorbing other people's through your own fear of confrontation, which is very strong, as I say, for the sensitive. So you are then taking on other people's experiences, not just your own, and you're processing them for them, simply because being around that element of confrontation is so scary for you, so unpleasant for you. No, it's not even scary, it's unpleasant. It's so painful that you'd rather just take on the other person's situation and process it for them, rather than have to face an energy that pushes against you in terms of confrontation. So that's why often you will have the experience as a sensitive of picking up on other. You think, well, why have I got this? It feels like someone else's thing. It's not mine. I don't understand it. Why have I walked through life with this? And I've seen it in so many times where people are wandering around with something that they say, oh, I've never been able to change this. I've never been able to shift this. Why? Why is that, Heidi? Why? I don't understand why. And it's come from, it's not even theirs. And they've wandered around with it for years. Some people, even 20 years, they've wandered around with it. Until it comes to a point where you can see it as far as subconscious is concerned and say, well, this happened to you X amount of time ago. And they say, oh, yes, I remember that. And say, well, they said, well, that wasn't even anything to do with me. I said, no, but you took it on. And it sat there for that amount of time and it's had that amount of impact. So this is something that's very important in terms of your stress levels for you as a sensitive, okay? So how do you overcome stress and overwhelm in terms of the sensitive? So how does a sensitive do that? How do they overcome their sense of stress and overwhelm? Well, sensitives usually worry over things more than the average person. Okay, so you will find that you worry about things more than the average person. Someone else seems to shrug it off and it keeps you awake at night, and they say, oh, it's not that important. You think, it is important. It is important. Again, it will go in at quite a deep level, especially if it's something very emotional. This is because you're more aware of the impact things have on other people than the average person. Okay, so you're aware of how something can grind deeply for somebody. You see around corners. Okay, so sensitives see around corners more so than the average person. So you're highly aware of consequence. So you're highly aware of consequence for, if you do that and you get that end result, because you're able to see further around corners than the average person. Okay, average person will think, oh, if I do that, and then I might think that, which is in a linear process. So it's boom, 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 boom. You work woo, 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 so it goes in various different ways, and so that you pick things up a lot quicker. You pick up on the flow of things, understanding of things, much quicker than you pick things up in the wind, so to speak, much quicker than everybody else does. Okay, so you can see round corners more than the average person. So these things have a strong impact on you. So you worry more than everybody else. So how do you solve this? How do you realise what it is, what your keys are to stress release? Okay, so work through your own issues on a deep level. Now these are the things that you must remember. Okay, this is about you releasing things in terms of your stress levels for the sensitive, but also for you, which goes way beyond just levels of meditation. Obviously meditation is extremely important for the sensitive, extremely important, and you already know that. But these are the things, the other areas, which will, if you work on these, it will lead you towards a very comfortable, balanced internal life. And therefore, if you have a very comfortable, internal, balanced life, it then has a habit of manifesting itself in your external world. So everything else becomes happy and balanced in life. Okay, and then you find things that have maybe been a previous problem finally, suddenly, miraculously starting to solve themselves. All of these things. So these aspects of how you solve your stress in life are very important to you. Okay, so work through, for starters, work through your own issues on a deep level. Okay, that doesn't mean that it just has to be through meditation. You have to be prepared to explore your reasons why around things. So rather than push things as your external world, so you think, oh, this is happening to me, is to look at it, is to try and view it and think, okay, what's happening here, and what's the lesson, or what is it that I need to take only my set of responsibility for and let the rest go. Okay, so you're viewing it as something rather than taking it as that whole very internalized thing, which sensitives do. Okay, so work through your own issues on a deep level. So not just looking at and thinking, okay, well, this is the external problem. So and so is doing this to me in my life, so therefore I focus on that. It's about looking at it and thinking, well, so and so is behaving like X, Y, Z. I wonder why that is. What's that got to do with? And then what happens is, because you can see round corners, because you have a deeper intuitive ability than you even realise, that if you do that, it will deepen your level of intuitive ability and your success within that, but it will also mean that you get there a lot quicker. Okay, so you get to understand yourself an awful lot quicker than if you keep externalizing things. Okay, so you keep looking as to who's causing it on the external world. When you look at it in terms of what does it mean to your internal world, it doesn't mean, oh, what do I have to fix or change. It means, what does it mean to your internal world? Okay, so within that, though, you must treat you working on yourself as a journey, not a destination. Okay, I know full well that you're very keen to get things fixed as quick as possible, because it reduces the amount of pain inside quicker, because you don't have to experience the feeling of confrontation. So whether that confrontation is from an external source or from your own internal source, as I say, confrontation for the sensitive is the worst thing ever, because it means physical pain. Okay, so you, as I say, you'll do whatever you can to avoid it. But if you work on yourself as a journey, not the destination, it will release the stress of it just like that. Okay, it will release, it will free you up, it will feel a lot better, it will feel an awful lot calmer, okay, if you do that. So start to see life, start to see the things in life that you are overly attached to. Okay, this is the next point that is really important. So you need to see things in life that you're overly attached to, and then start to release them. Not in the, oh, I release it, I release it, I release it. It's, if you can see the things in life that you are overly attached to and view them, as in view it in your world as though it's something that you're watching rather than absorbing. Again, because you're then stimulate, if you're absorbing things too much, you're hitting straight away your ultimate issue, which, as I say, is confrontation, is that holding of that pocket of energy, so it becomes tight in your system. If you start to see what you're overly attached to, it becomes something that you can open up and release. It becomes something that you can let go of. Okay, so it means that your system holds less of this, so it holds less tension, if you like. It's able to move it forward, it's able to move forward onto the next thing. So doing this one thing will release you from the fear of confrontation. Okay, your ultimate fear is, as I said, confrontation. But if you start to see what you are overly attached to and start to let that tension go within your system, you will find that fear of confrontation starts to release, which will be a tremendous relief to you, and it will halve your stress as a sensitive straight away. Question where in life you are being over responsible. Okay, overly responsible, whether that's for other people, things that are happening in your life, people that you worry about too much, things that you worry about too much. Where are you being overly responsible? Because I can guarantee you, as a sensitive, you are in some area of your life being overly responsible, so you need to adjust that. Okay, so seek to release some of that emotional responsibility. How do you do that? You think, oh, well, how do I do that, Heidi? If you think, a lot of this is an internal process. As long as you can view things, if you find that difficult, then write them out. Okay, write them out. So write out the things that you feel overly responsible for. It starts to release it from the system, it starts to get you used to it, it starts to get you used to being able to observe rather than absorb. Notice when your intuition is correct. Again, this will relieve you from a lot of the elements of your stress. Okay, a stressed, sensitive psyche will try and show you ways forward in symbolism rather than actual. Okay, so notice when your intuition is correct. Half the time when you think it isn't correct, it probably is correct, but your psyche was showing you in terms of symbolism rather than actual, and you're meant to interpret the symbolism. We've used symbolism through hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, in a lot of ways of our understanding something in terms of the psyche, how your brain works, all of that, the depths of who you are work, isn't in a literal sense. It's been through symbolism for thousands of years. Okay, so the psyche will still show you elements of things that you're meant to understand about yourself, your unconscious world, all of that will show you through intuitive senses, but they're not necessarily literal. You have to start being open enough to accept that some of those things will come in terms of symbolism, and noticing, taking the time to notice when you were right rather than telling yourself off for the times that you know, one or two occasions that you were wrong and then questioning it forevermore, is to look at the times when you were correct and notice the line-up in terms of the symbolism and the things that went on around it. That will make a big difference, and it will take the level of stress that's stored in your system as a sensitive down significantly. Okay, so what's your transformation? Okay, so what is it? Where are you going? What is life for you as a sensitive? Your developing intuition, okay, will set you free from worry. I promise you that. Over a period of time you think, oh, Heidi, it's taken me forever, I'm not sure if it's happening like that, it feels like a lonely experience, all of that, no one seems to understand. I promise you, your developing intuition will set you free. Okay, it will set you free from worry, build up all this kind of stuff over a period of time, because how it will work is that you'll maybe go through the emotion, the worry, but in knowing what your intuition is, you can then sense what the actuality is. And as a sensitive, you will always have an element of being able to see or sense a little bit further than everybody else. You may think, oh, I'm not that intuitive, but really, you will have the ability to always have a sense of what's coming ahead of everybody else. Okay, most definitely, you will always have that. Whether you half doubt it now or not, you do have that. But if you trust that a little bit more, it will free you up from the worry. Okay, promise you. Great intuition is the emotional wisdom of the sensitive. Now remember that. Great intuition is the emotional wisdom of the sensitive. This is who you are. Okay, it's not going away. This is who you are. It was always going to be there. It's going to develop. It's going to get stronger. The only thing in the way, if you think, oh no, I've got blocks, I've got this, I've got that going on, the only thing in the way is, I promise you boil it down, is your fear of confrontation. Okay, so once that element is dealt with, in terms of how you deal with your stress levels, etc., you will find that this deep wisdom of the sensitive comes forward in you, whether you like it or not. Sorry, you're stuck with it. It's who you are. Okay, healing is a required medium, both physically and emotionally. Okay, so for the sensitive, this is what is required. So you will find yourself going through elements of your own transformation in terms of healing, whether you like it or not. Okay, and that will happen both physically and emotionally. So sometimes things get a little bit more challenging in order for you to get it if you're ignoring it. Okay, so if you've got a health issue as a sensitive, please don't ignore it, because it will be something that's trying to communicate with you in terms of yourself and how you move something forward, how you heal an aspect of not necessarily what is manifesting on a physical level, but what's manifesting underneath that on an emotional level. So it'll be pushing to move it out, okay, not pushing to punish you or give you something nasty. It's pushing for you to understand something about yourself, your surroundings, your life, all of that. That's what happens a lot for sensitive. So some things, there will always be the push to heal both physically and emotionally. And you must accept that you are meant to be bigger than yourself. Okay, you're meant to be something that's bigger than yourself. You're meant to serve and be of service at some level or another. Doesn't mean that that's something detrimental. It means it's something incredibly powerful, and it means that you have no choice but to live a life of fulfillment. Okay, you may feel that you're chasing that at the moment, but in going deeper into intuitive senses, going deeper into your layers of healing and understanding and development within the self will absolutely send you into that aspect where you are much bigger than yourself. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, that means essentially you're opening your intuition, you're opening your healing abilities, and they're happening. And the reason why they're happening, why you're developing this aspect of yourself, it's so that you can guide and lead others, not only yourself. This is, yourself, but most essentially this is where you will get that deep peace and happiness, is ultimately where you're leading other people into, that you're guiding and leading them into it, whether you realise it or not. You think, oh, it's in a big sense or it's a small sense, you'll have that feeling, I just feel that there's something I'm meant to do. Well, this is it. Okay, this is what I'm telling you now. This is what it is that you're meant to do. You're meant to get to that stage where you're helping to lead and guide people. Okay, and what you're helping to lead and guide them into is self-knowledge, self-respect, and ultimately self-realization. Okay, and this is about your own process of that first. Okay, so self-knowledge, self-respect, and ultimately self-realization. That's your journey first. And then it's about you guiding and helping and leading others through that. It can be in one enormous way, or it can be in smaller ways. You think, oh gosh, have I got to go and do this, that? It doesn't mean that it can be simply in your own environment. But the powerful aspect of that is that it absolutely filtrates through many aspects of your life, okay, and other people's lives, and you will touch them more than you currently probably realise. This is the greatest contribution to humanity, okay? So in helping to find your own sense of self-knowledge, self-respect and self-realisation, leading others into it, that's the greatest contribution you can ever make to humanity. And remember that you are far more than you think you are.